The Children of Invention by Tae-Chun is probably the best film we've seen so far this semester. The story is about a family that gets evicted from their home and the hard times they suffer, and while this may seem like a common story now, what set the movie apart was their dialogue and the characters. The dialogue between the two children was fantastic. Tina was just, I can't believe she was a childhood actress. The way she managed to put her lines together and execute them with her faces and the emotion. And with Raymond, it was what wasn't said that made his character. He was quiet and kind of formed the father figure at many times, especially when the mother disappeared. He knew he got her food, he took care of her, he made sure everything was okay. They went into Boston and tried to find an escape to get them out of the situation. But what was so great too is while he was as an adult, he was also a child. The inventions showed everyone that he was just as much of a child as he was an adult. He might see how to handle the family situation, but at the same time, he is still developing. And I feel as though without casting those two actors for the characters, the movie just would not have had that much success. The ability for them to either put into the emotion into the scene or not put the emotion into the scene is what set this movie apart. And the editing also did the same thing. I felt as though the long scenes, especially when they were going into Boston, looking at the scenery, was showing how much of a journey it was for these two young children. It showed them where they were going and what they had ahead of them, like the big struggle. And although it was only the subway, they were like 8 and 4. And especially after watching the movie, I think the Q&A was fantastic too. The director, he was charismatic and cool. I think he was one of the best so far. It was really cool to know that he worked on other scripts and worked on mainstream things like Kashmir Mafia, and this script really developed organically, and I think that's what allowed this film to be what it was, is a slow build and making sure that everything is done properly. And to know that it was semi-autobiographical too was interesting. However, one thing that would have been interesting for me is if it had been an Italian family like they had discussed. Like, I think coming from Boston, I mean, a Chinese family is pretty stereotypical. I get it. But an Italian family, I think, especially in the Boston area, would have had a little bit more oomph. I feel as though that by choosing them, there might have been a little bit different. However, without those two children, the movie just wouldn't have been what it was.